Imagine that you are stranded for a full 72 days in a plane crash in a place where there is nothing but snow all around. No humans, no help, and nothing to eat or drink. All you can see around you is the shadow of your own death. But then something happens with you that you never expected. The story begins on October 13th, 1972, when a rugby team was traveling from America to play their final match. It was a normal flight, and all the players sitting inside the plane were very happy because many of them were traveling by plane for the first time. And all of them were going outside their country to another country for the first time. Some players were accompanied by their family members who were going with them to support their children in the game. After the plane took off, when it started heading towards Chile, passing over the Andes Mountains, everything was normal until then. All the players sitting inside were very happy and were enjoying the view of the snowy mountains from the window seats. But they had no idea that in a few minutes, something was going to happen to them that even thinking about it would scare anyone. A little later, suddenly the weather turned bad. A very fierce snowstorm came, causing the plane to start jerking violently. Due to the jerks, all the passengers panicked. But one passenger sitting inside explained that when a plane passes over mountains, there is turbulence, meaning this is not a sign of danger. Everything will be normal soon. But as the plane moved forward, its turbulence kept increasing. The plane now started jerking even more violently. All the items inside the plane started falling here and there. Seeing this, panic spread among the people. The pilots were trying to control the plane, but now the plane had gone out of control. Before the pilots could do anything, a mountain appeared in front, and the plane crashed into the mountain ahead and split into two parts. One player flew away with the rear part of the plane the moment it crashed and disappeared into the air, while the front part of the plane, rubbing rapidly, crashed into a large snow-covered rock. The collision was so intense that all the seats in the plane stuck to each other, in which many people were crushed to death. Now, those who survived this accident gathered themselves and started helping the others in the cabin. Some players quickly reached the pilots and tried to pull them out. But during this, both pilots also died. It was a very painful atmosphere. Blood was spread everywhere. Dead bodies were scattered all around. A total of 45 people were traveling in this plane. But after this crash, 18 people lost their lives and only 27 people survived. Now, since this plane had taken off in the evening, it soon became night. The outside temperature started dropping rapidly. The cold had become so intense that these people could not bear it. Now, to protect themselves from the cold, these people used the available items and dead bodies to block all the holes in the plane so that the cold air from outside could not enter. And all these people sat close to each other to protect themselves from the cold. The condition of all of them was quite bad. They were still in deep shock because they had realized that these people would not survive now. Anyway, somehow these people spent the night. When the sun came out in the morning, they saw that 4 or 5 more people had died due to the cold. But the good thing was that the storm had now stopped. The outside weather had become normal. When these people came out of the plane, they saw nothing but white snow all around as far as the eye could see. Now these people had to get out of this place as soon as possible because they would not be able to survive here for many more days. There were no houses around them, no animals, and no trees or plants from which these people could survive. Now, first of all, these people took out the plane seats to make space for everyone to sleep inside the plane. After that, they laid the injured people in the sun so that their bodies could warm up, and these people started melting snow to collect water drop by drop for drinking. After that, they gathered all the people's belongings. If any useful item was found, they kept it in a separate suitcase. Now, the bodies of those who died in the accident were taken far from the plane by some people and covered with snow so that they could be prevented from rotting. And when help arrived here, these people could take those dead bodies with them. When things settled a bit, these people breathed a sigh of relief. All of them were very hungry. Now, from the remaining food, 1 piece each was distributed among everyone. Although this 1 piece of food was very little, but it was enough to stay alive. However, everyone knew that they had to make this food last until help arrived. Everyone thought that by now the government must have known that their plane had crashed and they would be rescued soon. That is why they all sat together waiting for help. In reality, the place where their plane crashed was actually a valley, surrounded by high mountains on all sides, which made it not so easy to get out of here. These things were still being discussed when suddenly a plane passed overhead. Seeing the plane, all of them shouted loudly to make their presence known. But it was of no use because that plane was at a very high altitude, so it could not see the people stranded below, and the plane disappeared from their sight. A few hours later, it became night. All of them put on extra clothes, hid inside the plane, and used the luggage to block all the holes in the plane. In this way, this night also passed, and the next morning, a man named Nando regained consciousness, who had been unconscious since the plane crash. Nando's condition was so bad that he could not stand on his feet, but despite that, he went to his sister and hugged her. When Nando asked about his parents, he was told that his mom and dad had died. Hearing this, he was very sad. Meanwhile, the others melted snow again and collected some water and started surviving by drinking it. They also made an X sign on the ground so that it could be visible to planes passing overhead. A little later, another plane passed over them, seeing which these people became very happy, and these people tried to attract its attention by shining glass. But this plane also ignored them and left. These people were happy because they thought that maybe that plane had seen us, and now help would reach them very soon. But in this way, another night passed, but no one came to save them. Now they understood that no one would come here to save us. So these people thought about how we all could save our lives in this closed area. Then they got the idea that some batteries were in the rear part of the plane, and if we brought those batteries here, we could use the batteries to run the plane's radio and contact the outside world. Now everyone liked this idea, but accomplishing this task was not as easy as they were thinking because the rear part of the plane that broke off during the crash. Who knows where that part is now? Anyway, they decided to search for the rear part of the plane. After that, they made some goggles using leather and glass so that these goggles could protect their eyes in the fierce snowy storm, and 4 people from the group went to get those batteries. But after going a little distance, when they looked back, their plane was nowhere to be seen, and now they realized that in so much snow, no one would be able to see their plane, and maybe that is why no one had come to save them yet. Now these people tried to move forward when the snow there started sliding. Seeing this, these people got scared and came back towards their plane. In this way, these people spent 6 days stranded here, and a week later, all the food in the plane was finished. Now this area was covered with snow, and there were no animals around, nor any trees or plants. That is why now they had to do something to fill their stomachs. When they found nothing to eat, these people started eating the moss growing on the stones, which tasted very bad, but they had to eat it out of compulsion. Here, Nando said that if he had to eat the bodies of the dead people too, he would do that to keep himself alive. Hearing this, everyone fell into thought. Soon a debate started among all of them whether they should eat the dead people or die of hunger. Some people said that doing this is not right. If we do this, the one above will not forgive us, after which they kept stones on their stomachs to survive. In this way, time passed, and with time, their hunger also increased. The situation was such that these people were forced to eat their shoelaces and even cigarettes. But after being hungry for many days, how could their hunger be satisfied with those things? In this way, a few more days passed, and due to hunger, Nando's sick sister died. Nando had lost his parents as well as his sister. In this way, time passed, and these people somehow kept themselves alive for 9 days. But by now, their hunger had increased so much that their brains had also stopped working, and now their death was just one step away from them. Now they had no other choice. That is why they decided to eat those dead bodies. First, 4 people went out of the plane and started cutting and eating the corpses. Seeing them eating, some more people changed their minds and went to them to fill their stomachs. But there were 5 people who considered death acceptable until the end, but did not consider eating another human right. From the next day, these people started taking the corpses far away to cut so that these 5 people would not have any trouble. Here a boy named Numa found a suitcase buried in the snow. On opening the suitcase, they found a radio inside. After turning on the radio, they found out that there was no signal in it, for which these people made an antenna by connecting things, and on this radio, they heard a news in which it was being told that the government had conducted several rescue operations in their search and had sent about 66 aircraft to search for them. But despite so many efforts, when no trace of these people was found, the government declared them dead. That is why now the government has stopped searching for these people. Hearing this news, the courage of all the people in the group broke, and all their hopes of surviving alive turned to dust. Now, out of the remaining 5 people who had refused to eat dead bodies, 4 of them also ate the meat because they had come to know that no one would come here to help them, and now they had to do something themselves to get out of here. Here, 3 people from the group decided again to search for the rear part of the plane and bring the batteries in it so that they could use it to contact the outside world and tell them that we are still alive. After that, 3 people set out to search for the rear part of the plane, and after walking for several hours, they found some pieces of the plane, which these people picked up, and also found the body of that player who had separated from them during the crash. They buried his body and continued their journey, because now they also had an idea that the rear part of the plane would be somewhere around here. After hours of climbing, all of them were very tired, and due to these snowy winds, breathing was also becoming difficult for them. Soon it became night, and these people decided to spend the night hiding behind a rock. The next morning, when their eyes opened, all of them were covered with snow, and the condition of these three was quite bad. The cold was so intense that one of them's eyes had even frozen, and the other two were not even in a condition to stand on their feet. Now they had no strength left to move forward. That is why all of them came down the mountain, sitting on the iron shield outside the plane. Seeing these people empty-handed, sadness spread throughout the group, and that last remaining man also ate human meat and went to sleep cursing his fate. In this way, days passed, and these people somehow kept themselves alive for 17 days. But the bad thing here was that for the last 5 days, the outside weather was quite bad. To escape the storm, everyone was sitting inside the plane when a big storm came and filled the plane with snow from inside. Many people inside got buried under the snow. Now those who remained above got very scared of this accident. But then they showed courage and dug the snow to pull out the people buried inside. Now all the people came out in time. But one girl was buried very deep in the snow, who died due to suffocation in the snow. These people were very scared, and they had not recovered properly from this accident when they started hearing strange sounds from outside. When these people looked outside, they found out that another fierce storm was coming towards them, which was even fiercer than before. Another storm came and all of them got buried in the snow again. This storm was so fierce that the entire plane was filled with snow. Some people died on the spot. The people trapped inside now had no way to get out, in which one companion quickly made a hole in the roof of the plane so that they could get oxygen and avoid suffocating. These people were folding their hands and just wishing that no more snow would fall on them, otherwise all of them would remain buried here forever. A few hours later, they gathered themselves and collected a total of 8 dead bodies and kept them in the corner. Now in this way, they had spent 18 days stranded here, and their condition due to hunger had become bad. Now the only way to stay alive was that they eat the meat of the dead bodies inside. But doing this was very difficult for all of them, because all these dead bodies were of their own people. Now seeing all this, that boy named Numa lost control over himself. He got angry and started breaking the plane's window. During this, a piece of glass got stuck in his leg. But even after that, he did not stop and kept making a hole in the snow. After 2 full days of hard work, all of them succeeded in making a hole upwards, after which all of them came out. Coming out, all of them were so happy, as if all of them had been freed from the prison of death. They celebrated the joy of surviving, and then started digging the snow to take the plane out. During this, Numa noticed that the injury in his leg no longer hurt because the snow had numbed his wound. Although he did not pay much attention to it and continued digging the snow. Now the sun had come out in the sky, so they did not have much trouble digging the snow, and in a few hours the plane was out. Now the sunlight was quite good, so they all started thinking about searching for the rear part of the plane. But they had no idea how they would face these snowy nights, so they decided to wait a little longer because the summer season was about to come, and during this time, crossing this climb would be a little easier. In the blink of an eye, 34 days passed, and now the weather had become a little better than before. Now, the people who went in search of the plane for the first time, their health was still bad, and they were not at all in a condition to climb again. A few hours later, they found out that another companion of theirs had died due to hunger. Seeing this, these people became very disappointed and buried him in the snow. In this way, 2 more days passed, and on the 36th day, they decided that if they wanted to save their lives, they had to bring the batteries from the backside of the plane and inform the outside world. Otherwise, we will all die one by one, after which 4 people from the group decided to climb up. And the names of those 4 people were Roberto, Tintin, Numa, and Nando. These people wore lots of clothes to protect themselves from the cold and set out in search of the plane. But even after walking for several hours, their plane was nowhere to be seen. Then Numa's health started deteriorating, and he fell down dizzy. Here the others saw that the infection had spread in his leg injury. That is why they all decided that they would take Numa back down. But Numa refused to do so. He decided to go down alone and told the others to move forward. Now Numa returned to the plane, but his condition was so bad that he fainted as soon as he reached there. A little later, when he regained consciousness, he saw that his companions were trying to remove snow from the plane. He also wanted to help them, but due to weakness, he could not even move. On the other hand, those 3 companions, after traveling for several hours, reached the place where the rear part of the plane was, which had broken off after hitting the rock. Seeing this, all three became very happy and went to the rear part of the plane. When these three started checking the plane, they found many things besides the batteries, like lots of clothes, bottles of rum, and many packets of cigarettes. These people took the stuff and came back to their plane, where they put the battery in the plane's radio and tried to contact the outside world. But unfortunately, the radio had broken down, and in this way, their last hope also turned to dust. Meanwhile, Numa's health was also deteriorating, and now his infection had spread throughout the body. The food found from the plane was also finished. That is why all of them started eating human meat again. Numa stopped eating and drinking so that more food would be left for the others because he had come to know that his life would not be saved now. Now, some people from the group went to the rear part of the plane again in the hope that they would find something useful. This time their luck favored them, and they found a waterproof cloth which they joined to make a sleeping bag. After that, they heard on the radio that after 58 days of the plane crash, the government would run one last mission to search for them. Hearing this news, everyone got life again, and a small hope of surviving was found. Here, some people said that we should stay here and wait for them, while the others said that if we stay here, no one will see us. That is why some of us should walk and call for help. At night, Numa's health deteriorated a lot. He was taking his last breaths. Before dying, he told everyone that when I die, all of you make me your food. Saying these words, Numa died. Everyone got courage from Numa's last words, and they found a letter from Numa. In that letter, Numa had written that he is very happy that he died among his friends because he could not get a better death than this. Now, after reading Numa's letter, a different kind of enthusiasm came in everyone, and 3 people from the group set out again in search of help. These 3 took a sleeping bag and lots of food and started their journey. This time, these 3 had resolved that they would cross these mountains at any cost and reach Chile to call help for everyone. These 3 kept climbing without stopping, and when night came, they slept inside that sleeping bag. The next morning, they started their climb again and reached the top of the mountain. But seeing the view above, it was as if their courage broke. In front of them were mountains and mountains, and this meant that they still had a very long way to go. The thought came to their mind that they should all return because they did not have food for 3 people to complete this journey. Here, Tintin gave his food to these 2 and returned himself so that these 2 could complete this journey easily. Although this journey was very long and full of challenges, but still, these 2 did not give up and kept moving forward, and finally, after walking continuously for 10 days, their hard work paid off. They reached an area where there was much less snow compared to above. These 2 also found a clear water river where they stopped and drank lots of water. Then something happened that no one had expected. They saw a man riding a horse who was standing on the other side of the river. At first, these 2 could not believe their eyes seeing that man. They were thinking as if they were dreaming, but soon they realized that this was not an illusion, but a real human being. Seeing that man, their joy knew no bounds. They shouted loudly and asked that man for help, but that man could not understand their words because he was very far from them, and he could not hear anything in the noise of the flowing water. So he threw a paper and pencil across the river so that these 2 could write something and tell, and these 2 wrote their entire story on that paper. After reading the entire story written on the paper, this man took that paper to the government officer, where the officer also came to know that some people from the plane crash that we thought were dead 2 months ago are still alive, and as soon as the news was received, the government started the mission to save all these people. This man brought Roberto and Nando to his house, where they ate to their heart's content. Now this news spread like fire throughout the city, and very soon a fair of reporters gathered there, and the people stranded in the snowy mountains also heard this news on the radio, due to which everyone started jumping with joy. After that, they washed their hands and faces and packed their respective belongings. Soon the rescue team reached that location with Roberto and Nando, and finally, after 72 days of the plane crash, those people were saved. After that, all these people were brought to the city where these people met their family members, and all the people of the city welcomed them like heroes. Now all these people were admitted to the hospital. Here all of them helped each other in bathing, and then these people were given separate beds. But that night also all of them slept with each other, because after this accident, all of them were in deep shock. At the end of the story, we learned that a total of 45 people were traveling in this plane, out of which only 16 people's lives were saved. With this film made on a true story ends.